Hi guys, it's me Karen, and I was going to do a video today on a page I had done on April. It's about the stamping I did on this, and I had been asked a question because I've used like four different colors of ink in here, if I could do a video with just one color of ink. And I'm not going to use these stamps only because they would blur together a little bit. So what I'm going to do is use just this ink because I asked the gal what ink she had, and she has archival ink. I have a few archival ink colors, but I'm just going to use this one, and it's sepia. And on this page here, you will see a couple of different colors. It's all from the same ink pad. Now, what I was also going to show her is you can also use any kind of marker. This is a Crayola marker, and it's kind of got a wide tip. And you can get these during the school supply sales. You can get them really cheap. They're like $5 for 50 of them or something. And you can also use these for coloring your stamps, your plastic stamps like this, and then stamping with those. And you can use, multiple colors if you wanted to use these instead of ink. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is throw down a piece of paper that has kind of like the printed section on it. And I'm going to put down a little mat underneath it because I do the edges, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and do with this. So what we're going to first do is a couple of stamps with just the plain ink, and we're going to load it up quite well and make it dark. Now, the one thing I want to mention about archival ink when you're doing your planner pages is it will bleed through because it's that kind of ink. So I will stamp a couple in nice and dark like this, and go down the edge like I normally would have done for this page, and get a couple down. Now what we want to do is get a different color in there. So what this is called is you take your stamp and you stamp it like you did here, and then you take a blank piece of paper and you stamp it off and then lay it down. This is called second generation inking, and if you'll notice, it came, I could bring it up a little closer, out a lot lighter. So it takes most of the pigment off, and then you have just a nice little shadow going on. I have to wipe this down or I'm going to get a big mess going on. Okay, so I'll go ahead, excuse me, and I will do that a couple times. So we ink it up really good, stamp it off, and then stamp it down. And again, and I'll do one more piece over here on the side, just to give it a little extra color over there. So that gives you two shades. You could try doing a third generation, but it gets really, really light. So what you would do is ink it up really good like you did and stamp it twice and put it down. Sometimes it'll look the same, so it doesn't really, to me, make that big of a difference. Now, I'm done with the stamping part, and what I also did on my pages is I go around the edges with a sponge, and you can do that with a sponge. It's just one of those that you buy at the art part in the store. You could use a makeup sponge if you wanted to. You could actually use one from your kitchen if you want, but this is what I have. And we just tap it in here, rub it on the paper a little bit, and then just rub it on the edges. And because it's archival ink, it acts a little different than like distress ink. But I've done this with chalk ink too, and it turns out really nice. So you just go around the edges. You notice I'm getting some color in here because I have a very messy little pad here. Archival ink is a permanent ink, and it is also acid proof and all that kind of stuff. So there we have the nice darkness around the corners. Now I'm going to remove this. On my other pages, I have darkened areas with the sponge, and all I've done was take a couple of sticky notes, and I'm going to darken this little box here, and we just lay it down and surround the corners of the box. Boom, like that. Doesn't really matter on this side, but I'm going to stick one down so I don't get it all over my desk. And I'm just going to run it in here. Easy like that. And then when you take these off, you have a nice little dark spot that you can write the date in or something in a black pen. I also had shown that I could use a punch. I had a little piece of paper here. It was just a piece of cardstock. I'm going to run it in here, cut it out, and this gives me a little stencil. And I can do the same thing with the sponge. Same ink pad, so it'll match the colors, and add some leaves in here. And the more ink you put on, the darker the little leaves will be. So you can make a cute little decoration on your page that way also. And now I'm going to show you new page here. That's all done with the archival ink. So we're going to try and use the Crayola on this page. And I'm just going to stick a piece of paper under here. So like I said, this is the tip of the Crayola. It's kind of an angle, and you can use this to write with also. And you're just going to take it and color on the stamp. Now, it's a wet, juicy pen. I'm going to say that. So it looks like it bubbles up a little bit, but when you stamp, you're pressing it down, and it's going to be okay. You don't have to move terribly fast on this, but you want to make sure you cover it, so going both directions is a good idea. And I'm using the, not the tip part, but the side. Yeah, we just color it myself. Okay, then we will push that down, and it gives you a nice dark color. It's going to look a little more distressed because this is, you know, not an ink pad. But you can get the same effect as you get with your ink pad. I would assume you could probably color this on a sponge, like your kitchen sponge or something. Waste a lot of ink that way, but you could use it as an ink pad like that. Pick up the piece of paper, put a big one up here. And then I'm going to try and do a second generation stamp on this. I'm not sure how that'll turn out because this is pretty light as it goes. But like I said, if you had 2 shades of brown markers, which I do in the pack of markers that I have for this, you can do that. And we'll see if it'll actually mark here. See, it's really, really light when you do it. You can barely see that. But I mean, it would make an interesting page. Kind of like that effect. I'll give it another color. Put a stamp here. Sorry, this takes a little while because you're not, I mean, you're doing it by hand. What I'm going to do is get out another color of the brown and see how it works. That's right here. So there's another tone of brown. So clean off the stamp a little bit. Okay, I'll just use this color and see what it does. So like I said, you can use whatever you have on your desk. You can also use like acrylic paint. It gets really messy and you have to do a really, really thin coat on your stamp, and then you have to really clean it afterwards because the acrylic paint will dry hard and ruin your stamp. That color is really close, so I'd probably go with a yellow or something with that. Another generation there. Okay. And when you want to use a sponge on this, I'm going to have to try to find a clean sponge. I don't know if I have one. Okay. I have a sponge here, and I'm just going to cut off a piece. You would have to color on the sponge like this, and then see if you can rub it onto the page. Okay, so it works. Got too much on it up there, but you can always restamp on that area. Because I've never done that part before, so just bring it on in. Take more work at it. And where did I put my little leaf here? We'll color this up and see how that goes. So it does pretty well. Make a real light one down here. Boom. So there we go. That's kind of get rid of this stuff. The two ways of doing this with the archival ink. I'll show you the back. It'll leak through the pages. Especially when you are doing just the solid ink, because it is a permanent ink that'll seep through the page. It does a great job. This is the Crayola. Does not leak as much because it's a marker, but it kind of gives you the same effect. Granted, this does look a little nicer because I spent more time on it, on the edges and stuff, but I hope that answers your question that you had, that you can do it all with just one pad of ink. You could do this in any color, just doing a generation stamping. So stamp down one, ink it up, stamp it off on another piece of paper, and ink it again, and you get the two color tones. And then with the sponge, you can get more color tones. And the same with the marker. You can get it to ink your ink and do your page that way. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have a great day.